it doesn't belong. It's out of place. There's something not right about it. The fact that it's here, and it's almost as if the entity itself knows that he's in the wrong place. Driving home one evening, two friends observe something so strange it prompts one of them to reach out to a well-known paranormal magazine looking for answers. In June 2003, James Marcus, a pseudonym, and a friend were driving home from a friend's house along a back country road in West Sussex. It was around 10 p.m., almost dark, but some twilight remaining. They had traveled that road countless times, and on that night, Marcus's friend was behind the wheel. Marcus recalled that they had slowed down for a tight left-hand bend in the road, and as they turned it, going about 20 miles per hour, the headlights caught something moving amongst the trees on the outside of the bend. I was about to say, "Did you see that?" But my friend had already confirmed he had, with an expletive I'd best not write here. We only caught a brief glance of the person, but it was one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen, for two reasons. First and foremost, the person's size, which was staggering, and, indeed, what initially made us catch our breath. The figure was at least 8 feet tall, and whilst from our brief observation, it was hard to make an accurate estimate, he was clearly larger than he should have been perspective-wise. It was all too quick to notice any particular facial features. He was virtually facing us, but looking slightly down as the light shone on him, and seemed to be stepping sideways over something in the undergrowth, as his right leg was moving upwards and sideways. Marcus admitted that the sighting was so brief that not many details were noticed, but what they did pick out was very strange. The other very unusual aspect was that the headlights reflected a large glare off his clothing, which seemed to be shiny, almost like foil. It all happened so fast, but there was no doubt what we'd seen was very strange. As they continued to drive, Marcus and his friend both confirmed what they had seen. After a couple of moments of indecision, Marcus's friend turned the car around and headed back to the bend, this time much slower and with the headlights pointed directly into the trees, into the spot where they had observed the figure. All appeared normal. I even got out of the car and called, to my friend's fervent objection. I'd had some Dutch courage that night, but he was sober. But no one seemed to be moving about in the woods, and there was no trace of anything. We talked excitedly about it on the way home, but it got forgotten as these things do. In penning his letter to the Fortean Times, he noted that he wasn't much of a believer, but he simply could not explain what he saw that night. I don't personally believe in extraterrestrials, so for my own part, I've ruled out anything like that. And being a fairly practically minded person, I've come up with various explanations, such as kids mucking about. But the problem of size keeps coming back. I even checked the internet the following week to see if 8-foot-plus people were more common than I thought, rationalizing that it was some weirdo in a foil suit. It certainly wasn't any kind of model, but it was definitely animated. I'm still puzzling over it. In 1970, a family, father behind the wheel, mother passenger seat, and 3 kids, 2 boys and an older sister, the youngest seated on the lap in the front with the mom, while the other 2, the brother and sister, were asleep in the back seat. They were returning home to Arizona from Washington State. They were driving through the painted desert as the father preferred the scenic route. It was about an hour or so before dawn when the father spotted something on the right side of the road. One minute there was no light, and the next it was there softly glowing. As they approached the light, he and the mother, the only 2 awake in the car, could see that it was actually a man dressed in a bright, shiny metal suit. It reminded them of armor. He was just standing there on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere. The figure was quite tall, standing around, they guessed, 7 feet. As they drew near, it stretched out its arm and motioned for them to come forward. The father did not remember being afraid, just in awe. Curiously, both the mother and father could not recall what happened next. Neither could remember if they drove up to it or how they left the area. The father's next memory was standing at the gas pump. A couple of hours had passed, which no one in the car could account for. The father, an artist, would go on to paint this hundreds of times over the years. It was 2007, summer. Nick Skirton was returning from London, sitting on a train that had been idling at the new Malden station for far longer than he had anticipated. I had been looking out of the window at nothing in particular when I suddenly saw something that made me gasp out loud. At the far end of the London-bound platform is a thick bank of trees and shrubs behind a fence. I was astonished to see what appeared to be an enormous face made up of the surrounding foliage, looming out at the opposite platform, and looking very similar to the typical appearance of the Green Man, as seen in church carvings. Skirton estimated that the face was about 5 feet in diameter and about 7 feet or so from the ground. I was amazed at how perfect the face seemed to be, though at the same time I knew it was just my brain demonstrating its knack for face recognition in random patterns. I probably gazed in wonder for about 20-odd seconds before the most shocking thing happened. Suddenly, and with tremendous velocity, the entire face withdrew backwards into the vegetation, which caused the surrounding bushes and trees to sway violently. Most strikingly of all, a branch that must have been under the face swung upwards with immense force, as if a huge weight had been lifted from it, before smacking into the surrounding greenery, and, I suppose, reassuming its original position. This whole motion took about a second, and the face had completely disappeared. I could accept that a fox or even a human might have been sitting on the branches and had jumped off, causing them to bounce back into position, but this would not easily account for the very distinct retraction of the face, as if it were wrenched backwards into a tunnel. Skirton was shocked by what he had just seen and attempted to rationalize it, if only for his own sanity. The face in no way looked constructed or man-made and seemed to consist of a natural, though utterly remarkable, arrangement. The features of the thing were clear to see, and I was particularly struck by the grinning mouth and staring eyes. Quite how the verdant visage was sucked backwards, I have no idea. I have often wondered how, or indeed why, anyone would have achieved this bizarre effect for bored Southwest train's passengers. The train drew away and I sat back in my chair feeling strangely unnerved. On all of my subsequent journeys through the station, I have never seen anything like this again. The aspect of the story that I thought was really interesting was when he described how it kind of like, when it pulled away, when it pulled back from the hedge, he said it was like it got sucked into a tunnel, like it had been withdrawn. Like it wasn't here on its own volition, like something had put it here and then it was immediately sucked back to wherever it was supposed to be, or where it came from, or whatever. And I thought that was an interesting detail. In some cases, it's as if the entity has just popped into our world and is as surprised to be here as we are, when we see it. Those types of cases where, it's almost like they walk through a doorway, a dimensional doorway, and they're suddenly here and they're like, whoa, what am I doing here? It's sort of like a time slip on our end. We've all heard cases where somebody suddenly moves forward in time or they're backwards in time and everything's different and they're completely shocked. That's sort of what seems to be going on in at least two of these cases. Mr. Black here. I don't usually do this, but I'm just letting you guys know why the video this week is so short. I've been kind of under the weather, kind of just dealing with a cold, and anyways, I just wanted to thank you guys for watching, and hopefully next week the video is a little bit longer. And anyways, thanks to everyone, and thanks to my patrons, and thank you.